I waited 11 minutes in that driveway. Those 11 minutes turned into 53 years of silence.
He was a 71-year-old retired bus driver in San Antonio. He had a letter in his wallet. He had carried it for 53 years, folded so small the paper had gone soft at the creases. He never mailed it. He never threw it away. Last spring, he finally read it out loud, standing in front of a grave, saying the words he should have said in 1971 to the girl who didn't wait. His name was Vernon Mitchell. He grew up in Amarillo, Texas, in a neighborhood where everybody knew everybody, and everyone knew that Vernon and Beverly Crane were going to get married someday. They dated all 4 years of high school, junior prom, senior prom, every football game, every church picnic. Beverly was the kind of girl who remembered things, every anniversary, every song. The exact booth they always sat in at the diner on 5th Street. Vernon was the kind of boy who felt everything deeply and said almost none of it. When they graduated, people asked them when the wedding was. Beverly smiled. Vernon smiled. Neither of them gave an answer because they hadn't actually talked about it. Not seriously. And that silence, it turned out, was the fault line running through everything. Vernon was 22 years old and terrified, not of Beverly, of being finished, of being one thing in one place for the rest of his life, before he'd even figured out who that one thing was. So he enlisted in the Navy. He told Beverly he needed 2 years. He told her he'd be back. He told her to wait, but he didn't give her a ring, didn't give her a date, didn't give her anything solid enough to hold on to while he was gone. He shipped out in the fall of 1969. She kissed him goodbye at the bus station. He watched her get smaller through the window. He thought that was the hardest part. He was wrong. Vernon came home on leave in the spring of 1971. He had a plan. He was going to ask her. Finally. He had even picked out the diner, the one on 5th Street, their booth, a Tuesday evening. But before he could call her, his mother told him Beverly was engaged, a man named Tommy Caldwell. He owned a hardware store. He was steady, present, and available. Everything Vernon had chosen not to be. Vernon didn't eat dinner that night. He sat in his mother's kitchen until 3 in the morning, and he wrote Beverly a letter. He wrote that he loved her, that he had always loved her, that he knew he was a coward for leaving without asking, and that if she would still have him tomorrow, that day, any day, he would marry her. He meant every word. He wrote it by hand, folded it, put it in an envelope with her name on the front. Then he drove to her house. It was almost 4 in the morning. Tommy's truck was in the driveway. Vernon sat in his car for 11 minutes. He counted them on the dashboard clock. Then he drove away. He told himself he'd find another way. He told himself there would be a right moment. Beverly married Tommy Caldwell on June 14th, 1971. Vernon stood 3 blocks away in his Navy uniform and listened to the church bells. He couldn't breathe. He put the letter in his wallet that morning. He didn't know what else to do with it. The years moved the way years do. Vernon finished his service, came back to Texas, drove buses for 34 years. He married a woman named Carol in 1978. They had 2 children. It was a good marriage, honest, steady, real. But the letters stayed in his wallet. Every time he got a new wallet, he moved it over, folded smaller, then smaller. The paper went thin as cloth. Carol never asked about it. His kids never knew it existed. He heard things about Beverly over the years, the way you do in a small state. Tommy's hardware store, 2 daughters, a house with a garden she kept herself. He never sought out the information. It just found him, the way it always does, in places where people remember everything. Carol passed in 2017. Vernon moved to San Antonio to be near his son. He was quieter after that. He took long drives on Sunday afternoons, habit from the bus years, just to have somewhere to be going. Then, last spring, he saw Beverly's obituary in the online edition of the Amarillo paper. 73 years old, survived by her husband Tommy, 2 daughters, 5 grandchildren. The funeral was a Tuesday. Vernon drove 6 hours to Amarillo. He didn't go to the service. He waited until the cemetery was empty. He stood at the stone with the paper in his hand, thin now as a whisper, and he read every word out loud, the whole letter, all of it, 53 years late. He drove back to San Antonio the same day. He didn't stop for dinner. His son called that evening, and Vernon told him, for the first time, about Beverly, about the letter, about the driveway and Tommy's truck and the church bells. His son listened without saying much. At the end, he asked, "Do you feel better, Dad?" Vernon thought about it. "I don't know if better is the right word," he said. "I feel emptied out, like I'd been holding my breath since 1971. And I finally just let it go." He still has the letter. He didn't leave it at the grave. He folded it back up and put it in his jacket pocket. His son asked why. "Because I wrote it," Vernon said. "It's mine. I just needed her to finally hear it." There are people who will hear this story and call Vernon foolish for carrying it so long, for never finding a better way. But Vernon doesn't call it foolish. He calls it the weight he chose. Some people carry anger for 50 years. Some carry pride. Vernon carried a love letter. There are worse things to carry. What he regrets isn't the letter. It's the driveway, the 11 minutes, the decision to wait for a right moment that never came. When every moment, right up until that Tuesday in June, was still a moment he could have chosen. He carried it for 53 years. Then he finally said it to someone who couldn't answer. Is there something you've been holding on to that someone who's still here needs to hear?